Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about Tron Legacy. This isn't going to be a review, this is going to be a critique, but it is going to be full of spoilers, so if you haven't seen it and you would like to still have things unfold for you, don't watch this. Now, I really enjoyed Tron. I could even go so far as to say I loved it when it was first released. And while I'm not a fanatic, I am a fan. I have very fond memories of Tron, though I haven't seen it in a long time, I admit that. And I really need to get a new copy. This film failed miserably on every level to live up to Tron. To my mind, it ends up trying to coast through on its nostalgia alone. Now, the storyline's fairly well known. Kevin Flynn disappears, his son grows up for 20 years without him. Heir apparent to a corporation that he wants nothing to do with. And eventually he finds his father. And of course, the good guys win. But I didn't find almost anything at all in this film to like. From the opening scene where you see Sam Flynn as an adult for the first time, he's a despicable human being. He is more than willing to put the lives of innocent people at risk for his own entertainment. One of my first thoughts about this guy was, hey, he's a douchebag. I felt no sympathy for him whatsoever. Yeah, lots of people had their parents disappear. Few of them are billionaires. Sorry. You learn to cope with those things, or you end up being, like this guy is, a douche. Now, the computer segments, once they get into the grid, are quite attractive, with one exception. The CGI used in this movie to make Jeff Bridges look young is horrible. I mean, uncanny valley horrible. Whoever got paid to do that animation should be ashamed of themselves. That or they're laughing their way all the way to the bank. Because it was just crap. Flat out. It took me out of the film every time I had to see that face move. Everyone else in the movie looked just fine because they were played by people. But that character, whether it was Kevin Flynn in his youth talking to his son, or in the guys as Clue, it was just horrible. And then you get into the whole problem. Now, Flynn and Clue are both in the digital world. Clue doesn't age. Why does Flynn? They're both digital. There's no reason for Flynn to age. Yet he does. I'm glad of this, mind you, because that meant that I could actually see Jeff Bridges' face. Because he's got a nice face. I like Jeff Bridges. I think he's a solid actor. I'm really looking forward to True Grit. And I've got a number of films in my collection of him, and I'm going to have to go watch them to erase this one from my mind. But there are things about this that made no sense. Flynn was the god of the grid. Now, in The Matrix, you can forgive Neo for not understanding the nature of the universe because he was born to a lie. Flynn is the architect himself. Clue stages a coup. Which rhymes, I just realized. And about an hour later, Flynn should have had him as his lapdog. Clue should have been in complete and utter control within 60 to 61 minutes. Okay? Flynn could reach in and fix the code with his bare hands. If you can do that, you can run the world. And his closest companion, played by Olivia Wilde, Cora, spelled with a Q I've just discovered, but I think they should have just called her Colonel, because that's basically what she was, the most important piece of code in the entire world, was the last of a group of rare, self-spontaneously created software. And yet in all the years that Flynn had access to her, he never made a copy. He never figured out how she was created. Never recreated her race, and none of them ever came up again. What did he do for 20 years? He sat there and stared at his navel. Yeah, that's the way to win the war. Just hide. And then, why do programs need entertainment in the form of gladiatorial games or nightclubs? And speaking of the nightclub scene, the actor that played Zeus, which I just discovered is Z-U-S-E, which should probably be pronounced Zeus, like Muse in my book. But I saw the character on the street and I thought to myself, what, David Bowie's agent wouldn't call them back? Because that was the character right out of the Labyrinth. That was the Goblin King. This film didn't have a single solitary original thing in it. It stole things from the Labyrinth, from Star Wars, The Matrix, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, The Big Lebowski, War Games, and of course, Tron itself. All of these films were better than Tron Legacy. And this film looked pretty, and that's all it had to go for it. The pacing was horrible. This is like frantic action, boom, boring scene of expedition. Frantic action, boom, boring scene of exposition. Sorry, not expedition. But there was like that the whole scene. Now, you need breathers between action scenes. Got it. I understand that. But they don't have to be boring scenes. And that's what you had here. Dull. It was just terrible. And he's touted as being this great writer of code. In 20 years, he couldn't get a message to the outside world? And his code is not what would have changed the world, folks. He created a device that would digitally transfer a human being into a computer. He made the Star Trek replicator, human cloning, organ breeding. You just plug the thing in, give me a liver, and that thing would give you a liver. He solved the food crisis. He solved overpopulation. You could just put people into a server somewhere. He solved getting people to control robots and machines remotely. You don't know remote control. You put the person in the device and you send them off. They never get harmed. You solved the problem of getting to other planets or other star systems. You put them in a computer, you fire your ship into space, you don't have to worry about an atmosphere or any kind of food. No environmental controls whatsoever because they're all in the computer. That device he created would revolutionize the universe as we know it. And yet we concentrate on the fact that he built a computer that had a connection to the outside world, and yet he knew nothing about the outside world? They did have a connection to the outside world. If Clue could get a message out, Flynn could get a message out, and people could get data in. It was a mess from beginning to end. It was boring. My wife's like, I'm so glad we did not pay full price for this movie, because I would have been really disappointed if we did. And she's right. And she was more upset about this than I am. She went on, she was ranting during the film. She was not happy with this. And I can well understand why I was not happy with this. So, go out, watch Tron. It's a heck of a lot of fun. It's not as pretty, but it's a whole lot better. Oh, and one final comment. And that would be the misogyny. Because the only strong female character in this whole film is Cora. Every other female in this movie is nothing but set dressing. Fembot eye candy. All they're going to do is generate cosplay costumes at conventions. And they take Cora out of the computer world, where she's unique and wonderful and beautiful and important, and bring her out to our world, where she's just another brunette. And how much of a learning curve is she going to have when she discovers the biological functions of digestion and the menstrual cycle? She's going to be wanting to get back into that grid in a heartbeat. So, don't bother with this film, folks. Go watch other better Jeff Bridges movies, because there's lots of them.